Hang in
Do
there, it
that.
is! Smylie Kaufman for 61. Wow.
I'm Smylie Kaufman, and this is The Smylie Show.
Well, welcome to a special episode of The Smylie Show. We are joined by legend Ben Crenshaw, otherwise known as Gentle Ben, and this is a real treat for me. Is obviously
No legends here.
Okay. Well, you've always been a legend in my mind, so really fun to be sitting down with you. The week of the Masters. It's Monday of the Masters, and we're sitting here on a rainy day, have some time to maybe talk about some old times, whether it's winning 2 Masters or just your career in general. And Ben, one of the first things I think about with your game is how great you were with the putter. We got our little putting green here behind us, and that's what it reminds me of how good you were around the greens. And was that something right from the get-go as a junior when you picked up a putter that just felt easy and natural to you?
Our old teacher, Harvey Penick, used to really encourage us to putt. He said, I want you boys to play, but I want y'all to end up on the putting green, and I want y'all to have matches with each other. It'll keep you sharp that way. And he said, you got to putt for something. Maybe it's a Coca-Cola or something. But he said it always sharpens your skills. And he wanted us to putt. And because it's such an important department of the game. And as you know, here, it's another element. You play tournament golf and you get to a set of challenging greens, but then you always kind of parallel that to what your experiences are at Augusta here,
right? Because
these can be the meanest greens you could ever play.
100%.
You have to have such an imagination to putt here. And it's a lot about pace, and the pace has to be just right. And also, it's not a fable, but it's true that the putts tend to go down to the bottom of the golf course. And my old caddy Carl Jackson, who helped me so much you can't believe during this time. And, a lot of people thought that the spot was the 12th green. And he said, no, it's really not. It's just over the back of the 11th green.
Wow.
Where the water goes out.
That's right.
Where the bridge is. Where you see the bridge. That's
you know
the
what?
low point.
It's funny you say that because in my notes, in my Augusta National book, I have the pull going to behind the 11th green. So I got some good advice.
There you go. And it's unbelievable how many times that affects a putt. Over a lot of greens, and you've got to know that. And I've always thought that, we've only had Fuzzy Zeller's only the first-time winner.
I tried to join him.
I know you did. I know you did. But there's a lot to take in, a lot to learn, not only about the greens,
right,
but how the shots play. And the change in elevation. You're going to know where downhill and uphill is, what affects your club selection, but it only comes after a few years of playing.
Right.
So there's a lot to learn, but it's, to me, I've played tournament golf all my life, but there was nothing, Smylie, like being in contention in this tournament. It was so much fun.
It's the best.
But it was. I know this, that my nerves were strung out like piano wire when I got in contention and in the fray. It was so exhilarating, nothing like it.
And Justin Leonard, I was reading something that he said about you, talking about how you had the best speed of any player he's ever played with when it came to your putting. And he described how you would slice putts, you would hook putts, you would putt them off the toe. And this all speaks to just the creative and the feel that you have to be a good putter, and especially for Augusta National.
There's not many places where you can play a 10-foot break and have it come around just right. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, but it's nervy because it can make you look silly. It's done that to me many times, where you have an approach putt from 30 feet and you leave it 8 feet out somewhere. But it's done that to us all.
Totally.
But also, if you do make a putt like that for a save or something, it gives you a charge like that. It gives you so much confidence.
Totally.
But, the golf course to me is, you can't play safe and win this tournament. There's a way to play it safe, but you're not going to score. And there's some times where you have to ask yourself to really hit a golf shot somehow. And it's tough to do. But you could, when to get close to a flag, you have to shave an edge of a bunker closely, or it has to go up a slope and then come down. It's hard to do, but when they come off, it really gives you some confidence.
And in this day and age, you turn on the TV now and you watch golf. And even this past, I believe it was Saturday, the drive, chip, and putt, I'm sitting there watching on TV, and I'm watching all these juniors, and they're going through this aim point process where they're stepping all over the place. And then you see, they're copying the pros, of course, who do it all the time. In your day and age when you played, if you'd have seen a player, running through this type of system, you would have said, this guy's crazy. But there's obviously a formula that seems to work for these guys to figure out how to putt better.
I know it. Putting's very technical. The way it's taught these days are, I know nothing about aim point. I know nothing about that stuff, and it's amazing. And I really don't understand straddling the line of the putt. I don't. It doesn't compute with me. It's the most scientific part of the game. Obviously, the closer you get, the more mysterious it comes, and it can mean so much to your round. But the ways to figure it out. I think I do remember there's a line that Bobby Jones wrote a long time ago. He said, if anyone hopes to reduce putting to a science, they're in for disappointment. And it was
Boy,
so
things have changed.
I thought it made so much common sense. He said the ability to gauge a slope and the pace of a putt is the way you should do it. And
that's how I've done it.
If it was good for him, it was good for me.
And you know who else has done that is Scottie Scheffler and Jordan Spieth, two Texas guys. Man. Of course, I'm sure you have a rooting interest for anybody from the state of Texas. Watching Jordan Spieth did what he did in 2015, and of course, watching him at 16 and what happened. And then, of course, Scottie Scheffler, who's been on a tear over the last couple of years and has a chance to win 3 of the last 4 Masters. Your perspective of watching those two guys, how their games differ, and what impresses you the most about them.
I can't help it. Those two are my favorites.
Right up the top, you star, right?
Yeah, I love both of them. They're such great guys, and they've got exceptional talents. Jordan has a unbelievable touch. Obviously, when he made all those putts, but his short game, his chipping is unbelievable.
Sevy-like.
Yeah, and there's not a spot where he's not gunning for the hole, or he can hit a lot of different shots. But I tell you, the tall man, Scottie, can hit some beautiful little short shots.
Underrated.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he has that upright angle of attack that really helps him.
Probably growing up on Bermuda, you have to be, have that descending blow on the ball, or the grain's going to get you.
That's right, and he's nervy putting too. But they're exceptional. The way they grew up, and highly competitive, both of them. But a belief in their abilities on and around the greens.
Yeah.
Scottie's ball striking, and with that big upright swing, is just something to behold. He can hit it way high when he wants to, And of course, I always loved Jordan's swing too. I know that he's a little frustrated right now. He'd like to be doing a little bit better, but I think he's shown some good signs of late, and I think this place turns him on.
It does.
And I look for him to play really well.
You know, I was reading something as well. Davis Love said there's always a little bit of magic when you talk about Ben Crenshaw, with whether, you know, it was a bounce or two you got, or big moments that you had, or quotes that you gave to the press. And you can't help but think there's a little bit of magic too in Jordan Spieth. When you watch him play golf, you can't look away. And we talk about how it's the Jordan Spieth experience. But do you see that same little magic in Jordan that maybe you kind of carried when you played the game of golf?
He's had many moments. You know, one that I can really think of is when he won the NCAA for Texas at Riviera.
He holds that shot at 15.
Unbelievable.
Against Justin Thomas, too.
You know how tough that green is, number 15.
Unreal.
At Riviera. But to see that play out that last day.
Insane.
You think, well, that's the kind of magic we're talking about. But his kind of career has been possessed with those moments, and he can do it at the right times.
So the Champions Dinner tomorrow night, I'm sure you've got so many memories from that event. Do you typically sit next to the Texans? What's the seating chart look like? And what's been your favorite Champions Dinner of all the years you've gone?
I tell you, Smylie, it's such an honor to be in that room and to see everybody together. You know, someone told me yesterday that this is one of the few times where all living Masters champions will be together.
Oh, wow.
Well, that'll be a special occasion. You know, Gary Player is 90. He's almost 90.
Wouldn't be able to tell.
And no. And Jack is up there, but they are our two leaders. It's hard for me to, when I look at them, I say, well, Arnold should be here. Arnold Palmer should be here. And they've been our trio of leaders forever in that room. It's a very, very special fraternity. And it's in some ways, it's one of the most exclusive clubs that you can imagine. It started by Ben Hogan in 1952. And it was a very simple letter he wrote to the champions. He said it might be nice for us to get together for just a dinner.
Cool.
And it grew from there. Ben Hogan, that was 1952, was the first one. And it was ironic that later on, Byron Nelson became sort of the host of the dinner. He was very close to Clifford Roberts. Mr. Roberts liked Byron a lot, and not that he didn't like Mr. Hogan, but he carried on that tradition of sort of leading the dinner. And I'll never forget this. I was sitting at home one day. It was Mr. Nelson gotten way up there, and he said, Ben, Byron Nelson here. I'm unable to come to the Masters this year. My health just won't let me do it. And he said, I want you to take over as the host of the dinner. I'm not able to come over there. And I literally dropped the phone. He said, what happened? I said, well, Mr. Nelson, I dropped the phone. And he said, no, you love history and you love this place. He said, I want you to lead it off, keep it light, and keep it moving. And that's what's happened.
It's pretty cool. Well, we're going to definitely get into your win in 1984 and 1995, but quickly talking about the Champions Dinner in 1985 after your win in 84, were there nerves going into that dinner about what to choose on the menu and just speaking to that whole fraternity for the first time? I've heard players, feel, like this was more nerve-wracking than actually, finishing out on 18.
Well, it's my first year that I won, 1984. I had to order some food off the menu, the club menu, and then it changed. Then they said, well, you can have a meal that you wanted to design. So it really started changing after that. I think it was, 1984. 1984. Craig Stadler won the following year, and he had a different menu. But we've had so many exotic menus. I mean, we've had Vijay Singh had a Fijian menu.
What's been your favorite food that you've had? Like one that stands
I know
out?
who it was. It was Sandy Lyle. Sandy Lyle won in '85, and
Okay.
he brought in, of course, haggis from Scotland.
Oh, God.
And I mean, it was the whole deal too. They brought in the scabbard.
Oh, man.
And they
Was it any good?
Cut the thing. It was terrible. It was just,
It just stunk up the place, I
oh
imagine.
my God. But we've had Adam Scott brought in what was called Botany Bay bugs from Australia.
Oh.
They're little shrimp.
Okay. Did you eat them?
Yeah, I did.
So it's like a little crawfish.
Matsuyama had a beautiful Japanese meal.
That's what Jordan always said that was his favorite one.
It was exceptional. I had my last one was Salt Lick Barbecue from Austin, Texas. It was good.
I've had that. It's fantastic. Well, you got off to such a hot start in your amateur career. You won 3 national championships at Texas, individual titles. And I found it interesting that you won your first time on the PGA Tour. Actually, we just got done with the San Antonio event this past week. So that was your first win. Following week, you runner-up. So you get off to this hot start where, you probably just feel so invincible.
It was amazing. It was a heck of a time. I had been playing well, and I got out of the qualifying at the school. We all had to qualify back then, and I was playing well, and somehow I won that tournament there in San Antonio. And then we went to Pinehurst for the World Open. 8 rounds at Pinehurst. And Miller Barber beat me, and I finished runner-up. And luckily I'd played in some pro tournaments as an amateur. I got some exemptions, and champions in Houston and Dallas and places, and I'd played some U.S. Opens, so I started to know the pros, and I've started, a little more comfortable with them.
That's good.
But a lot of them became great friends. A lot of them called me a little punk. There's little punks here.
Not quite gentle Ben, a little punk.
But no, it was just fun. I was learning and playing well, so I did get off to a good start.
So 1973 all the way to 1984. I want to talk about just this decade before you win the Masters. There was a lot of heartbreak during that time. You had contended at many major championships. You were runner-up at the Masters in 76, 83, 75 U.S. Open, 79 Open Championship runners-up, and then, of course, a playoff loss in the 79 PGA.
Yeah.
When you think about that time from 73 to 84, you came out so hot, and all you're thinking about is winning major championships and continue to win. It's not like you weren't winning on the PGA Tour. You had done it 8 times at that point. But still, how difficult was it to not come through when I imagine you were just dying to?
A lot of soul searching. It's painful coming that close, and you wonder until you do it. You say, well, it's. If you look back at the history of the game, a lot of people did not win a major championship that were capable. I always say, too, Smylie, that during the Champions Dinner on Tuesday night this week, at least I always say, I said, how lucky we are to be in this room? Because we do know fully capable people who never won this tournament. And people who we know could have won, and Johnny Miller, Tom Weiskopf, and people like that. And you go, you're pretty fortunate to have overcome the competition that week and then to be in that room. So you're pretty lucky that way.
What did you learn about all of those, if you call them failures? I wouldn't call them failures. You were so close, and that's really quality golf. It's hard to win major championships. You need a little luck on your side. Going into that 94 Masters, what was different about that week in the preparation leading up to it to where, you were able to learn from your past experiences to be able to win that golf tournament?
All the times I missed, you remember good play, but you always have a critical point where you feel like you failed. You don't hit an approach shot right, and you don't get a putt down, or you hit a bad drive. It could be a million things.
It happens so fast, doesn't it?
It really does. It really does. But I had a really kind of a uncommon start in 1995 when I won, because I'd missed a couple of cuts before. I missed a cut at New Orleans right before. And it was amazing. Tom Kite called me, and he said, Ben, our old teacher Harvey Penick had just passed away. So we made a plan and flew back to Austin, and we buried him and came back down here Tuesday afternoon, late, or Wednesday. So I had already been here for like one day. And Carl Jackson, my old teacher, my old caddy, took a look at me. He said a couple of things. He said, Ben, you look like you're killing snakes. He said, you're swinging too fast. Slow down.
Because your head's probably all over the place. You know, you just lost your mentor, the guy that you've called a million times, you know, whether it's about golf, life, and that guy is now gone. It could not have been easy.
We knew it was going to happen at some point, but lo and behold, it happened. And then I came back down here, and when Carl got a hold of me, and he just calmed me down quite a bit, and he said two things. He said, put the ball further back in your stance and make a tighter turn. I started hitting the ball very solidly, and
that quick.
My confidence grew just like that, and hit some good putts late in the evening. And I said, you know, this is my favorite place to play. I want to see how this little experiment, how far it'll take me. And first day I played well. Simple thought, very simple up here. Second day was nice, third day was nice. Saw some nice things happen. And it's funny, I never thought about, obviously I was thinking about Harvey a little bit, but it didn't consume my mind. And I had this calm and peace about it, and it just happened like a dream.
And you were 43 years old in 1995,
I mean,
too.
not too many contend when they're 43 and above for a major.
But that's the experience at Augusta National. I imagine over the 39 years that you had Carl Jackson caddying for you, that you guys had probably a pretty good game plan of how not only to attack the golf course, but how your game, you know, caters to Augusta National.
He could read me like a book.
Really?
And he's just been a dear friend for so many years. 1976 was my first year that I had Carl.
How'd y'all get paired up? Is it just by chance?
I had a wonderful guy before named Luke. Luke was great, and 1976, I had two wonderful friends. Well, Mr. Stevens, Jack Stevens, and Carl worked for Jack Stevens, and a Fort Worth member named John Griffith, who's a member of Shady Oaks, and they knew Carl. And they kind of orchestrated it for me. And so I went out and I finished runner-up to Raymond Floyd that year, 1976. He beat us by 8 shots.
Oh, man.
Raymond. When Raymond got hot, it was no catching him. Anyway, we had a nice, Carl and I had a nice time of it, runner-up. So that was our first time, and we started gelling. And I had never thought of anything else having Carl by my side.
And you had a really good Friday round in 1995, good round on Saturday, and all of a sudden you're leading going into Sunday. And for someone that's been in a final group, I know how long it is to where you wake up so much earlier, you don't sleep great, and then that tee time is so far away. And I had seen video or pictures of you and your older brother, little Charlie, chipping pine cones. You know what I did on the Sunday before? I accidentally watched Tin Cup, which was the wrong thing to do going into a Sunday of the final round. I should have been out chipping pine cones with you.
Well, you just try to, like you say, there's so much time. You know, I'm kind of an early riser, and when you start, you tee off at 2:30. It's excruciating waiting.
It is.
So we tried to bide our time somehow. But I just was going out that last day, and I said, I'm just going to play. I'm just going to have fun and play. And just had I don't know, I've had times where, you're tormented by this or that, but I had a very peaceful mind, which was
funny how that works.
I said, late in the round, I made that birdie at 16 and 17. And 17, I made a hell of a putt there. And I stopped and I said, I can't believe this is happening this week.
And what about, so your wife Julie kind of talked about how maybe that week you were getting some Harvey bounces. And on Sunday, that second hole in the 14th hole, we had some left drives that kicked back in the fairway to where, maybe that doesn't happen on another week.
Well, you're right. You've got to have some breaks to win. There's no question. Whatever form they come in. But those two, the second hole, that was, fairly good hook, and it stayed up somehow. We all know
that creek down there.
I've been there a million times down there. And it's
ain't
no
fun. You can't get out of there.
It's no fun. So got out of that one. And 14, it was a soft right bounce, but it was just enough to where I could hook this 8-iron, land it short of the green, and ran up there in good shape. So those two shots helped quite a bit.
Incredible. Well, winning 2 Masters Championships. I imagine was 1995 your more favorite one of the two?
It'll always be.
I think it's everyone's favorite.
84 was a relief, a relief that I could get it done. But 95 is out of this world.
Well, you were part of 4 Ryder Cup teams, and as we head into a big Ryder Cup this year at Bethpage, Keegan Bradley, he's a player that very well is talented enough to qualify on points. You've been a player. You've also been a captain when we think about that 1999 Ryder Cup at Brookline.
Right.
Just thinking about what faces Keegan Bradley as a captain and as a potential player, what comes to mind for you of what faces him?
First of all, Keegan is very competitive, really competitive. He's playing really well. He could
really well.
I actually texted him a good while ago, and I said, just keep making the team. You're playing great. He's a leader. He's a leader, and I know that many nights he puts his head on the pillow and he's going, how am I going to pair these guys? And
did you have the same thing?
Yeah, because you don't want to make a mistake. But it's an impossibility that your pairings will be infallible. It doesn't work that way. You have some guys that you wouldn't think that would do well excel in the Ryder Cup. There's an extra gear that sometimes they find. But one thing, those guys live and breathe for the Ryder Cup. And it's maybe at the top of their list. It's amazing. And they've got some unbelievable players.
Do they ever? And I think one of the big debates amongst golf fans or analysts, and it's always how they assemble a team, talking about a captain. For you, were you somebody that relied more so on form, experience, or a player who maybe is young, didn't have the experience that you just believed in?
I had... Most of my thoughts were how my players were going to get around the country club in Brookline.
That particular course. To
me, and how they're going to handle it. And it's one of my favorite golf courses that I've ever played. Awesome. And it's a little quirky.
Blind tee shots.
A lot of blind tee shots, old-fashioned. You got to know the greens are smallish. But how well they prepared and what that golf course could give them. You have to play some imaginative golf there. Wow, we were getting thrashed.
10-6 going into Sunday, right? Before your big speech?
4 points. I did. I told them, I said, look, every time they've had a competition here, an American has won. And I said, don't let this be the other way. And I could tell that the afternoon before the last match, I could tell how well these guys were playing, and they were just getting beat by the smallest margins, but they were knowing the course better, and they were fired up, and they were kind of spirited and angry, and I've never seen. They started so well that last day. It was an explosive start, and boom, we were right back into it.
Yep.
So, and I tell you what, Hal Sutton, I've never seen a guy play so well. He played the dangest golf that week of anybody. He was the backbone of the team.
Is that who you followed a lot watching?
Yeah, he was, and the team, rallied around him. His words were unbelievable. But here comes Justin Leonard. That was the most amazing finish. And that putt on 17 was just, it was like a meteor. It was like a meteor hit. And it was our day. It was our day.
Well, it's going to be
a heck of a team that
you sure did, and it's going to be in another incredible Ryder Cup, especially coming off Rome, where it felt like the Europeans never were going to let the United States have a chance that week.
They played well.
They did play well, and I'm really excited to see how these teams take shape. I'm sure you're going to have a rooting interest as well. Maybe some Texans will be on that team. We'll have to see.
I'll tell you who's kind of high on my list to contend this week. Oberg. Man, he looks really good to me.
He's, I think he was built in a lab.
He got a taste of it last year, finished runner-up here. And I know he has to love it here. But watch that guy play. I love the way he goes about it. He does not take long over the ball. And, man, can he take a cut at it. Beautiful.
It is really beautiful. Let's finish there. Let's talk about this Masters. And you just mentioned Ludwig Oberg. Are there any other players that are on your radar that you feel like that have a chance?
Scottie Scheffler and Jordan. Matsuyama fascinates me. God, he's so strong and got
really good with the wedge.
Strength of character and mind. A lot of others too. It's just fascinating watching people trying to get themselves in position this week, and how well they react to certain circumstances. Because this place makes you really think you have to have an imagination to play well around here. You just sort of assessed your chances of playing a golf shot.
Yes.
You say, well, am I good enough today to hit this ball over there towards that pin? Or I better just go a little bit over this way.
Is there a crucial shot on the back nine? Everybody talks about that 12th shot. Do you think there's one that's more crucial than that on the back nine?
It's the nature of water always it gets in the specter of things, because you can fluctuate a lot of shots that way. But obviously 12, you've got to hit a shot there, and what kind of shot you're going to try to play your second shot at 13 if you've driven it well. And 15 to me is an unbelievable. It just sits. The green is just there below you, way down. And that's what I mean by knowing how far that ball can travel downhill. And you only hope to hit the right type of shot.
How far downhill did Carl say that shot played at 15?
Yeah, it plays probably 10 or 12 yards shorter. A club anyway, at least the club.
Every week we get yardage books, and it gives us elevation for plus minus of what a shot is playing uphill, downhill. Augusta National, when you get your yardage book, it's just a number, and you don't have any plus or minus for elevation. You have to figure it out on your own.
You throw the book away. You know, it's funny, Carl and I we never went by yardage. We went by clubs. We always said, well, this looks like a 3-iron or 5-iron.
That is
I'm not
insane.
Kidding. That's just the way we did it.
Did you do that anywhere else, or was it just Augusta National?
I did it quite a bit. I didn't rely on yardage so much, unless it was a course that required it. But I mean, changes of elevation and believe, you know, you saw it too when you played. When it warmed up here, the ball seemed to really travel. So day by day, shots played differently, and then if it was chilly and windy, it would really change things.
For sure. So, well, I guess we all naturally know what clubs we hit on certain holes. So that it just takes me a second because we're so ingrained on TrackMan, foresight, hitting your number, being, you know, so exacting at Augusta National and precise. And then listen to two-time Masters Champion say, you know what, we didn't even use numbers. Like, that is just crazy to me. And
I know. Now later on, you know, when I started Champions Tour, I started relying on yardage a little bit more, but it just, this place, you could just throw it out the window, really.
Man, well, this has been fantastic, man, and I always appreciate your kindness. I think when anybody spent any time around you, they feel like they met a friend they've known for a very long time. And for me, you've always been so kind to me, especially when I was going through my struggles in the game of golf. You sent me a note a time or two, and it's meant the world to me. And always been a big fan of yours, and of course, love the rest of your family and Julie. So it's always a pleasure.
Smylie. Well, you've always been somebody who people love you, and you do such a good job. And I never forget playing with you, and you played well here. And so I just carry on your work. We enjoy listening to you.
Thank you, Ben. Well, I appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun.
You know, I listen to this podcast. It's really cool. And
all of our local fans and subscribers, but make sure you like and subscribe.
It's cool to see what you guys are doing. I know golf fans appreciate it, but we do too, so please keep it up.
For all the good people of YouTube, like and subscribe.
You guys have some good takes, so I'm happy to come on and shoot the